divers, Alec Peirce, Alec Peirce Scuba, tech tips again. I hope you've been enjoying this. I got lots and lots of comments and questions and suggestions for more tech tips. Keep them coming. That's a great idea. Now, this particular one, again, is a suggestion from one of the viewers, and I love it. It really gives me ideas, and these are things that I can talk about. Some people will say, you give me a topic, I can talk forever. Well, that's true. But anyway, hopefully these are useful to you, not just a bunch of words. What we want to talk about today is buying a regulator. Now, that's a big, big topic. We got brands and models and features and all kinds of things. I want to narrow it down. And what I'd like to do is address the question of how much should you spend? Should you buy a $300 regulator or an $800 regulator? And that roughly, guys, is the range. You can buy a decent brand name full performance regulator that'll give you a good service for many, many, many years. For $300 bucks, maybe a bit less. You can also pay $500, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 if you want to. Heck, there are rigs out there for almost $2,000. Now, when I talk about the regulator, by the way, I'm just talking the first and second stage. This is technically a regulator. All that other stuff, that you have on your regulator system, the safe second, pressure gauge, LP hole, all that stuff, that's not the regulator. It's part of the regulator system. I mean, it's a regulator. So I've chosen for this is $300 or $800. How much should you spend? Well, first of all, it'll depend an awful lot on your diving. How much diving do you do? If you make, you go to the cottage 2 weekends of the year and do 2 dives, and you go down to Cozumel or Florida, and for 1 week, and you do 6 dives where you're down there, so you do less than 10 dives a year, you really don't need to spend $800 on a regulator. A $300 regulator would do everything you want it to do. You're not diving deep, you're not diving in caves, you're not diving under the ice, or any of those what we would call extreme dives, where a little bit more high performance might be worthwhile. $300 will do a really, really good job. Let me explain the difference between a $300 regulator and an $800 regulator. Okay, first of all, let me explain that this is the first stage, this is the second stage. I think most of you guys and ladies and divers know, and hopefully you remember, this is the first stage. It goes on the tank, called the first stage because this gets air first. And the air is reduced in the first stage to a workable pressure, 150. And then the second stage, it gets to the second stage and then it's reduced to your breathing. That's a technical thing which we'll talk about. This is the first stage and second stage. Now I can take another first stage, second stage, same brand, different model, okay? And there's another first stage. There are some differences which we'll get to. But let me explain that there's not much difference in what these two devices do. $300, $800. There's not much difference in what they do. The first stage only does one thing. It takes air from 3,000 psi in your tank and it drops that pressure down to 150 psi. These are relative pressures, roughly. 3,000 in the tank is pretty constant with a full aluminum 80. 3,000 is about right. And 150 is a pretty average, 135 to 150 is a pretty average what's called intermediate pressure. The pressure after the first stage, before the second stage. So they do the same thing. 3,000 to 150. Does a great job. 3,000 to 150. Does a great job. And it just sits there waiting for you to suck on the second stage. So bottom line, there's not much difference in what they actually do. So what's the difference? Well, here's a good, solid, quality brand name. You might recognize this brand name, one of the biggest and oldest companies in existence today. First stage. A good, solid, basic, unbalanced piston first stage. Real simple. There's a knob on it. There's a dust cap, filter, everything else, everything it needs. And this first stage will take pressure from 3,000 psi down to 150. Perfectly well, all day long, as much as you breathe on it. Now here's a first stage on this model, same brand, same major brand name. And this first stage does the same thing. It's got a knob on it, and it's got a dust cap, goes onto the tank, and it takes 3,000 psi down to intermediate pressure, roughly 150. Does the same thing. What's the difference? Well, there are some differences. First of all, you might notice that this first stage has a swivel. You see, it swivels back and forth. What's that for? Well, it's for your comfort and convenience. This is like leather seats in your car. You don't need them, but gosh, they feel good. Now, this might be a little more useful than leather seats because when this is in your mouth and you turn your head, I often have this problem. You turn your head, you see, the swivel will turn too. If you turn to the right, instead of the hose yanking, if you turn to the left, that's the left, isn't it? Turn to the left, you see how the swivel moves. So the hose is less likely to pull on you. But you don't need that. It's nice, but you don't need it. 300, 800, you see? Now the other thing is that this particular first stage is a balanced first stage. If your dive store says to you, you have to have a balanced regulator or you're not going to dive safely, find another dive store. Not true. Lots and lots of regulators, most rentals and most entry-level basic regulators, those used on pony bottles by tech divers and so on, many of those, the majority of those are unbalanced, or what we'll call standard regulators. This is balance. What's that mean? Well, balancing isn't a big deal. It's a technological term that explains the sophistication level and the fact that this particular regulator is designed so that the breathing, the flow of air never changes. So whether you're deep or shallow, whether your tank is full or almost empty, or whether your head is down at the bottom digging in the sand or up like this looking at the boat, doesn't matter. The flow of air from this first stage will always be the same. And it gives a little larger volume of air as well. So consistent high volume air is what you get from a balanced regulator, nothing else. Okay, little extra chrome, that's just about it. That's what you get. 300 versus 800. A swivel, and maybe a little higher performance. Ferrari, okay, don't be insulted. Chevy, okay, Ferrari, Chevy. Do you need a Ferrari? For 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 dives a year, I would say no. Your maintenance costs will be higher, your initial cost is higher, just like a Ferrari. But that's the basic difference. Sure, there are other little things, but nothing too terribly important. Okay, well that doesn't really explain 300 versus 800. That's more than twice as much. Let's go to the second stage on these regulators, and maybe I can help you understand some differences there. For the second stage on this $300 regulator, I don't want to call it cheap or inexpensive or anything else. I'm just going to call it a $300 regulator. There are lots of them. The second stage looks like this. It's lightweight, made of Psycholac. Don't use the word plastic. Everything you own is plastic. So it's a form of plastic, but it's a better form of plastic than what your toothbrush, although toothbrushes are mighty tough. I don't know what's made of plastic. Toys are made of plastic. But you can't do this with a toy. This is brand new. I can even leave a mark on there. They're very, very tough. This is made of the same stuff that your steering wheel is made from. Now, when's the last time you saw a broken steering wheel? You grab your steering wheel and it doesn't break. This is what it is. It's called Delrin. Often they use Delrin type of plastic. Very, very tough. It also makes it lightweight. Lightweight's important because it goes into your mouth. You don't get jaw fatigue. That's a technical term, jaw fatigue, from hanging onto the regulator a lot and is very heavy. Now, between you and I, jaw fatigue is more commonly a problem for divers who are nervous underwater and then really tightly. So by the end of the day, their jaw is sore because these things don't weigh anything in the water. But anyway, this is light, so it's easy on your mouth and so on. It has a purge button on the front. And a nice mouthpiece, and you put it in your mouth, and you suck in, you get air, you blow out, it goes out. You suck in, I mean, what do you want? That's what you want the rig to do, right? Every time you suck on it, you get air. So it's simple. Black and $300. $800, what do you get? Whoa. Look at this. I'm not going to bang this one. Look at that. Ah, yeah, exactly. You get looks. Very often when you pay extra for a regulator, you're buying style, you're buying looks very, very often. It's the same mouthpiece, identical mouthpiece, exactly the same. And so what's the difference? Nice purge button on the front. Well, here are the differences. First of all, small things, small things. This mouthpiece has a clamp on it. Instead of the typical wire ties that almost all brands use, this particular brand uses a clamp. What's the big deal? Well, you can use this, pop the clamp off, take the mouthpiece off, put a new one on. Anytime, quickly and easily. Not a big deal. You don't really need that, but that's one of the reasons it costs more money. Obviously, the metal, the chrome case costs more. This is brass, chrome plated, shined up really nicely to make it appeal to you, but it costs more money. Downside is it's quite a bit heavier. Again, underwater is not a big deal, although this will weigh more underwater. But anyway, that's not a big deal. The weight. What else do you get? Well, over on the left-hand side over here, I'm not sure if you can see that, Kevin, but over here, right here on the left-hand side where your left hand can reach it, there are two things that a $300 regulator won't have. First of all, in the end, and this is quite common, once you get above the $300 regulator mark, up into the 5 and above mark, you'll find almost invariably a knob that turns on there. Look at that. That knob turns. That's kind of neat. We'll talk about that in a minute. And there's another lever here. Look at this. See this lever here? Can you see that, Kevin? It goes back and forth. Push it forward and pull it back. Push it forward and pull it back. Can you see that? Okay. What do we have here? We have extra features. Extra features. So with this particular regulator, you got leather seats. And you have power windows. Extra features. You don't need them? Are they useful? Well, let's find out. you dive a great deal, having the adjustable second stage, this is adjusting the breathing effort on the second stage, could turn out to be useful. And that's exactly what this does. When you're breathing with this regulator, $800 regulator, and you turn this knob all the way out, that's counterclockwise all the way out, it's breathing as easily as it can. If it breathed any easier, it'd actually be free-flowing, air coming out of it. That's good, right? If it did start to free flow, or if for some reason you didn't want it to breathe quite that easily, and that's possible sometimes, you can just turn it in a little bit, and the free flow will stop. You see, as you turn it in clockwise, it gets a little harder to breathe, adjusting the second stage only. All right? So breathing effort adjustment. Okay? Also, this other little lever is called a Venturi assist. Venturi assist. Now, Venturi assist is a little different. If you know anything about Bernoulli's law, you can search Venturi on Google, find out all about it. You'll soon know that a Venturi assist is something that depends on a flow of air. And if there's a flow of air, you can make that airflow do neat things. When it's towards you, when it's away from you, when it's away from you, it breathes like a normal regulator. Yeah, this breathes like a $300 regulator. But if you were swimming in a strong current, or if you were working very, very hard, or you were very deep and working, shouldn't do that. If you were, and you find it's getting hard to breathe, particularly if you're a big guy, a big diver, you use more air than normal. Then with a Venturi assist, you can just flip that lever towards you, and all of a sudden you'll find that you don't get more air, but the Venturi assist that comes from the air flowing that you've got coming, will all of a sudden, it'll actually breathe for you. So you start to breathe and it fills your lungs up. Yeah, just like that. It fills your lungs up. It's kind of like drinking from a garden hose. You know, you get lots of water, sometimes too much. So that can help. And you're going to adjust a little bit. So it's quite easy to get a full lung of air. It's a nice feature to have. Don't need it, but it's a nice feature. So that helps to explain why this regulator is $800. Beauty, chrome stainless steel, clamp on the mouthpiece, Venturi assist, breathing effort, balanced first stage swivel, it all adds up. If you need or want those items, you got to pay for them. It's like buying a car. Simple. Let's take another example. This is another manufacturer, another big brand name, been around for a long time too. First stage, very, very simple. This one's not even chrome plated. Okay? It's satin finish. Now you see, they wouldn't say it's not chrome plated, they say it's satin finish to imply that, that it's not deficient. But there's nothing wrong with this. In fact, the satin finish doesn't scratch like the chrome does. But this is a straightforward, standard, good, solid first stage knob, dust cap, breeze. Every time you suck on it, it delivers air. Remember again, the first stage, all that does is take 3,000 to 150 over with. Now let's go to the second. Oh, hold on a minute. What's this? Ah, this regulator comes with a flex hose. Look at that. Unlike the rubber hoses, boy, oh boy, if you still have rubber hoses on your regulator, and we've had some tech tips about this, you can't do that with your rubber hose. I don't suggest you do it. I don't suggest you do it with the flex hoses, but the point is you can. And so the beauty of the flex hoses is not only are they tough and very, very light, but you can fold this regulator up into a very, very small package. You can put your whole reg system into your glove compartment. I bet you can't do that if you have rubber hoses. But let's go straight to the second stage. Here's the second stage on this very straightforward $300 regulator. Black, cycle lock, simple as possible. Mouthpiece, good. And a Peirce button on the front. That's what you get for $300. Every time you put this in your mouth and suck on it, you'll get air. Exactly. And if this will suit the amount of diving and the type of diving you do, it's a good buy. It's a good buy. Nothing wrong with that. Same brand. Different model. Well, yeah, sure. They have $800 regulators too. Of course they do. So here's that same brand, different model. You can already see some of the differences on here. They got color, white. So your regulator is now distinctive. In fact, the whole second stage is white. You can get it in different colors, but I've chosen this to make it really stand out. Flex hose, white. Second stage, white. Just look at the first stage first. And this first stage is simply a balanced, a very high performance first stage. This does not have a swivel. I mentioned earlier, swivel can be nice, not necessary. This particular company does not have a swivel on their first stage, but it's a high performance first stage. Also happens to be white, which is distinctive. Flex hose. Now let's go to the second stage. Here's the second stage. Several things about it. First of all, look how small it is. Very small, very, very light. You don't get jaw fatigue. Beautiful mouthpiece, matching white. How about that? I didn't even notice that. It also has the full front purge, a little bit of chrome for looks. Got to have chrome. Even on a cheap Chevy, you put on nice chrome wheels, right? Bit of chrome for looks, so that's one reason why you're paying. And it has on the end, you see it right there? Breathing adjustment, and it also has a Venturi. This one has little clicks on it, so you can set it to different levels of Venturi assist, which we talked about earlier. Beautiful, huh? Oh, one more thing, look. This has a swivel, a special swivel in the second stage. So this second stage flops all around like that, makes it very, very easy to get it in your mouth, and makes it very, very easy to move your head around. So it's just easy. Maybe that's why they don't have a swivel on the first stage, they have it on the second stage. So, great features, beautiful regulator, easy to breathe, easy to use, $800. You have to decide if you need those features. And your dive store can explain all this to you. I'm just sort of giving you a precursor so when you walk into the dive store, you have a little bit of knowledge in advance. Okay? $300, $800, it really is up to you. They will both give you air, all the air that you will need for a normal recreational dive. I hope that's been of some interest to you at least. And you got some ideas now on what the differences are. Don't let anybody say, oh, an $800 regulator is what you need to have. You can't dive without one. Not true. Not true at all. Hope that's helped a little bit. Maybe you have some questions for me about this. Take care. Alec Peirce, Tech Tips.